I was never a Christian. Recently, I've come to the realization that although for many, many years I got caught up in emotionalism, for many years I went to church, I knew some passages, I wrote songs about those passages that I didn't understand. For many years, I was some form of leader, some form of role model to someone who didn't know any better. For many years, I felt this sensitivity and this pull to the Lord, but I don't believe that I ever truly gave my life to Him until very, very recently. I could blame other people. I could blame my upbringing. I could blame the individuals who molested me when I was younger. I could blame the people that drugged and molested me when I was even older. I could blame a messed up system. But I don't. I blame myself for not having the emotional maturity to look inward and realize that saying I'm a Christian, saying that I'm spiritual while swearing and having sex and looking at pornography and manipulating people and forcing my own worldly desires into my life does not make me a Christian. The hardest thing to admit is that even when I thought I was taking my faith seriously, I wasn't. And when I say I wasn't a Christian, I don't mean that I was sinful. I don't mean that I just made some mistakes. I mean, I went to church more than once a week. I knew all the songs. I said the right things. But I didn't accept Jesus as Lord. I was angry. I refused to forgive anyone for ever wronging me, and I painted myself the hero and lived in denial of my own sin and of my own faults and of my own crimes for years because I claimed to be a Christian. And I don't want anyone to get confused and think that I'm just remorseful or regretting the way that my life went, and so I am saying that by my own standard, I'm not really a Christian or I was never a Christian, because that's not what I'm doing. What I am saying is that by biblical standards, I did not keep Christ's commandments. I'm saying that by the Bible's own standard, I did not choose to follow Jesus. By the Bible's standard, I was among the dead who was burying their own dead. I was someone that was clean on the outside, but so dead inside with no hope. I struggled on and off with pill addictions, alcoholism, sex addiction, pornography addiction, any sort of addiction that would get me attention or numb me. I dove into music to vent my own doubts about God. I wrote so much about a God that I had no relationship with. And for one reason or another, recently I came face to face with these truths. I came face to face with the reality of God. I came face to face with the realization that there are so many broken people that I have encountered in the past that will never forgive me for acting so pathetic, acting so immature. And it was in this anger, this real anger of wondering why can't people get over it, that I thought, that I heard God speak to my spirit and just ask why I can't get over myself. Why is it that I've had this wonderful woman in my life who has refused to give up on me, who has been the very picture of who Christ came on earth to be, and I can't let her in? Because it's so easy for us to go to church. It's so easy for us to be in leadership and to expect the church to give. And what's not easy is understanding that we don't deserve a thing. I came to the realization that it wasn't Satan working against my marriage and Satan working against my relationships or against my spiritual walk. It was the fact that I was not on a spiritual walk. I was just on a walk to hell. I was just walking with the rest of the world, but using a few less cuss words and listening to a bit of cleaner music. I wrote music about being dead inside. I wrote music about being a void, or feeling a void inside of myself. And I wanted so badly for someone to relate to it, because I wanted someone to tell me that it was okay. The truth is, I have never been a Christian. Not because I didn't believe in God, not because I wasn't searching for something, but because I didn't want to be. The truth is, I was never a Christian because I never, in my 29 years, chose God first. It's because I always looked at what could be done for me and what I could gain. I never stopped to realize that maybe God wants me to be broke. Maybe God wants me to be uncomfortable. Maybe God wants me to be a little scared of what life looks like without Him. So that when I really lean into the arms of Jesus, I would never know fear again. And I've encountered this fear by entering into this podcast venture. I experience this fear when I look at my daughter and wonder who she's going to go to school with, and if she'll ever meet someone whose mom or dad I wronged and screwed over in my idiocy. And I realize this fear when I want to do something for the Lord, when I tried in my own strength, and the world bringing up my past or using my past to manipulate real things into fake things looks pretty convincing. I realize this fear when I look in the mirror and have to admit that believing in God is not enough, and that I was an absolute fraud. And there's something freeing about that. And there's something freeing about being truly forgiven. You see, I remember being in a church with over 200 people with their hands raised high, shouting in tongues, laying hands, and realizing that if I could put on a show, any of them could be putting on a show. And that's not necessarily a judgment on any of those people. It's just the fact that we can all hide behind the Bible and we can all hide behind routines. But how many of us are caught up in the routine, and how many of us are caught up with this mask that we're wearing, that we refuse to be vulnerable, that we refuse to ask for help, and we refuse to ask for guidance. How many fathers refuse to allow the spiritual authority of a pastor to help them until it's too late and they're already divorced and their kids hate them? And how many wives allow their husbands to act unloving because they're not truly saved, but because of this routine and because of these certain hints of what Christianity looks like, they don't dig deeper. And how many single young men and women just turn to sex and turn to drugs and turn to pornography and get hooked on it for their entire lives because they don't truly know the love of Jesus, because their parents didn't want to force a religion, and instead they taught them nothing except what the motions look like. The church is getting lost. I was so lost, and I've seen it firsthand. I've seen students who have been suicidal because they don't truly know Jesus, and they can't turn to their parents because they've been deceiving them for so long. And it breaks my heart to understand them, to understand what they're going through, because I never sought help. I know what they're going through because I was alone and allowed myself to just fill my life with anything but God. Because when you're white, when you're in the presence of purity, you see how filthy and dirty you are, and it is terrifying. And now I pray that God turns me into a real Christian. A Christian is someone who loves God with all their mind. In their thoughts, they love God. Someone in all their heart loves God. With all their love, they're chasing after God. And with all their soul, with something that is intangible about yourself, and love their neighbors, love their enemies, love people who think differently, love the people that have hurt you and scarred you and abused you. Stop hating each other. Stop hating the people in our past who wrecked us, because it's over. And they're just living rent-free in your head. I pray for a true revival in the church, but revival doesn't happen when your church attendance booms from 200 to 300, then to 500, then to 1,000. That's not revival. That's butts in seats. Revival is what happened when all the dead men and women who are claiming to follow Christ wake up. They wake up from the dead, and they truly live. I was never a Christian. And now I am finally alive.